Facebook on the right spot, too. Oh my god. It's like more than one monitor. I don't know how I feel about that. Out the overlay. Overlay's working. Check out the BRB. BRB's working. What's going on? How are you guys doing today? Welcome to another episode of Holistic Life Consultants. This is Eric Allen. I am your Holistic Life Consultant, and it is a wonderful Wednesday. I hope that it's been a good day for you. The weather's improved significantly here. And yeah, it's been just nice. It's been a nice day. It was hot, but I had some air conditioning. That's a wonderful luxury. And yeah, I'm ready to have some coffee in a couple minutes here. Just letting a couple more people show up and jump on the stream. We do have all of our social media. Let me put that up for you real quick, just in case you're coming from all over the place. We are on Instagram at The Life Coach Insta. Please go and follow me there. I promise to post things if you promise to follow. I'm on YouTube at youtube.com/TheLifeCoach, and HolisticLifeConsultants.com is the website where you can become a member, and you can get all of the behind-the-scenes information, including streams that will never be on here, because I'm going to say stuff you can't say here, and I'm also going to give advice, which you can't do on here as a professional. And we are also obviously on Facebook. I'm broadcasting right now on Holistic Life Consultants page. You can go on there, like the page, follow the page. I will have some social media management as we go forward, and that'll be fun. And I'm working on some other cool stuff. Like there's some article writing that I've been doing, and there's books in the works. There's a lot of stuff going on. So let's keep up to speed, keep up to date on all of the new, cool, fresh things that we're doing. Please follow me on all of these platforms. I'm on Twitter. I tweeted. That was a suggestion from Jay Holloway. Thank you, Jay. Yesterday, I did tweet to all, like, 3 people who follow me on there, but we'll see. I'll be on there, I guess, sometimes, or I'll have whoever's managing the social media be on there. So be on the lookout for that. That is, I believe, Life Coach HLC on Twitter. Just double check that. At Life Coach HLC. Wow, that's pretty cool. I got an okay Twitter page. Look at that. Hold on. It's not bad. It says Holistic Life Consultants. It has some things. We're doing some things over here. Yeah, I have it's good. So go ahead. Go follow me on Twitter and say something to me and I'll respond. Oh, Lord. I'm only going to, I said this to Ricada, I'm only going to be on Twitter so that I can message people on it and so that I can respond to what people ask me. So I'll be on Twitter. But I'm not getting on TikTok. I'll tell you that right now. I don't care if you like it or not. I am not getting on TikTok. You would have to give me a full PowerPoint presentation that I do not fall asleep for in order for me to join TikTok. And it would have to prove that it is going to vastly increase my sales of my products and services. It is going to blow up my name worldwide, and it is not going to contribute to the downfall of society. And I don't think you can prove the last one if I exist on TikTok. So, and we're working on Rumble. I still haven't decided if I feel like paying them $60 a year just for the privilege of having 4 viewers on their platform. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Because I like it. I like Rumble. I get on Rumble. I watch, I think, Crowder and some other people on Rumble. But I don't know. It's just another subscription to pay to broadcast on another platform when I multicast, and I'm just not sure how I feel about that. Anyway, we have a lot to get through today. We have more definitions of things to get through and topics to talk about than any other day that we've not had a guest. By the way, we have a guest. We have a futurist coming on tomorrow, and I will send out the information for that on all of the social media platforms that I have. Very excited to have him. He's a very interesting guy, really cool, and it's just great to have different professionals on. So happy to do that. We are going to start with the mug of the day. It is Lord Vader. This is Darth Vader's helmet. It's kind of weird drinking from the skull of your enemies, I guess. It's not that bad. That's kind of an alpha thing to do. But all right, this is a freshly brewed cup of coffee with the right pumpkin spice this time. Yesterday I had pumpkin pie spice. Oof, it is not the same. But this one hopefully is closer to meeting the mark. So cheers. All right, all right. I like it. Smells better. Oh, man. A delicious hot beverage at night really does make it so I can continue to talk for the rest of this stream. Some days are worse than others. Like some days I am doing a lot of paperwork, or I'm developing trainings, or I'm working with different nonprofit organizations and things like that. And it's fine. It's good. It's paperwork. And then there's days like today where I build in breaks for myself because my days oftentimes start from very early in the morning until very late at night. So I often will build in breaks. There are some days like today where I wake up with text messages that I have to respond to, and then I get requests for phone calls and jumping on different conference calls and things, and I get randomly called. And at every single break of the day, I get calls. So I have to go, like I had to do a couple other things today that just, popped up in my real life, not my work life. And I just never got a chance to give my throat a break and give it a rest and just not talk for like an hour or two. Days like that, days like today, man, it's great to have a coffee maker in the office. Man, I am cool chilling out with you guys with some coffee right now. This is nice. It's really nice. I finally think I have the coffee game down. I have a feeling I'm going to end up ordering my own specific, because right now I have Pete's coffee, which is okay. I mean, Pete's is not bad. It's a dark roast decaf. It's hard to find a dark roast decaf, and I found Wegmans. If you guys don't know what a Wegmans is, it is a wonderful grocery store chain in the Northeast area. Now they're like Northeast. Before they were just like Pennsylvania, and they have decaffeinated hazelnut coffee, which is extremely rare. It was really cool. It was a big find. So I have decaf hazelnut. I have decaf dark roast, but is it the quality of coffee that I'm used to, like from Coffee Brand Coffee? Not a sponsor, but could be. Coffee Brand Coffee has much better tasting coffee than this. It's the coffee I make at home. And also one of the loves of my life, and I've been sort of cheating on this coffee company with Coffee Brand Coffee for a while because it really is good and it's a better price. And I'm sorry to say that, but Java Love, I have T-shirts, I have merch. It's bad. I love Java Love. You can get that online as well. There's a couple of places where they roast in New York State as well as in New Jersey, and they're also not a sponsor, but could be question mark. I doubt both of them could be, but we would see. I'd have to do like month-long campaigns. I don't think I could be an ambassador for both of them at the same time. Doesn't mean I won't try. So what I'm thinking is, man, this is good. This is nice. I'm not getting rid of this. What I'm thinking is like having coffee brand coffee in the office and then having the Java Love at home. So getting the coffee brand coffee delivered and then just taking it to the office and then having a separate 5-pound bag of Java Love and then just do like every other month for both or maybe every 3 months for both because it's a lot of coffee. But one of them being decaf and one of them being caffeinated. I mean, not that I even really care. Honestly, if decaf tasted the same as caffeinated coffee, I would never buy caffeinated because I don't care. One of the things I don't like about drinking too much coffee is you get jittery. You get too much caffeine. I'm not one of those people who tries that like death whatever coffee that just to make you drink it so that you die from drinking. I'm not into that. I don't need caffeine. It's not a thing that like does anything for me anyway. It never does anything good. It doesn't wake me up. So if I could get a coffee that had no caffeine but tasted just as good as what I'm used to, I would get decaf all the time. You'd have to convince me that it was like worse for you, which I have heard that the ingredient that they use to get the caffeine out of coffee is bad for you. It's like formaldehyde or it becomes formaldehyde, something like that. So I'd have to look into it. But if it is a healthier alternative and you still get the antioxidant properties of coffee without the caffeine, I'm all about that life. It just has to taste the same. Decaf coffee never tastes the same. This tastes like it's like the Bud Light of coffee. Like you can tell it doesn't have the same flavor. Whatever they did to chemically alter it, they also castrated the flavor. And that's even with lower level, like lower brand coffee. Like I could tell already it wasn't the best coffee. But now it's even more so because it's like like I said, the light beer of coffee. I don't know why. It's just not the same, man. If you could come up with a decaffeinated coffee, that would be incredibly valuable. Like you could make a decaf coffee that tastes just as good as caffeinated coffee. You'd make millions. I literally just got this weird thing. I want to show you this. Heads up. Your page experience just got better. We've unlocked new ways to use your page life coach coast to coast and grow its audience. And then it's like review the changes. I'm not reviewing the changes. I'm like in the middle of a stream and you're sending me a message about my other broadcast that I used to do, Life Coach Coast to Coast. I don't do that anymore. I'm literally going back to Holistic Life Consultants to put everything under the same brand. And I don't know, it's just crazy. I'm not doing that. So I am going to just kind of chill out with you guys for a little bit. Mostly just because I'm really enjoying the coffee. Every time I start a stream, and I notice this now because I've been back in this for a couple weeks, I notice that I pour this beautiful black gold into a mug, and I start with a nice sip or two, maybe 3 if I'm greedy. And then I go off on the first rant, and I go off on an article, and I don't know, I get into work mode. I get into focus mode and presentation mode, and I just start thinking about I got to get into this, I nerd out on the psychology stuff. And then I go back to sip my coffee the second time, and it's already cold. It's just, I don't want to stop the stream every time and BRB LOL every time that I have cold coffee, because that would be every time I go to sip coffee. But, sometimes I think I just want to have this chill out time in the beginning. We're just hang out with you guys and find out what you're doing and what you're up to and just kind of hang out and sip some coffee. And then we can get to the important stuff. And then maybe it paces the show better. There's almost this, I don't know. I'm very critical of myself and what I'm doing here because I would hate for this to be, I already know that it's not the highest quality. I know the camera could be better. It's a cheap 4K camera. I know that the microphone is a Blue Yeti, and it's not the Sony that I want. I don't have a sound mixer board. I know my computer's old. So I know that this production is not the highest quality. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but a lot of it has to do with, in my mind, I haven't earned the right to get better quality equipment because I don't have the audience. I'm not making any kind of income on this. This is It's just not there yet. So I'm not like, I'm okay with that. It being kind of still like feeling like it's in its infancy, because it kind of is. But I'm very critical about the content. Like, I want it to be at least interesting enough where people come on here and they're like, all right, I'll stick around. This seems interesting. This is fun, or at least it's entertaining. And one of the things that I noticed, because I go back through and I watch what I can of my streams, because honestly, like, I don't know, something just fell in my eye. Honestly, it's kind of cringy. I just can't watch myself for that long. It's just like, ugh. I literally just did this. I just said this, and I remember it, so I'm not gonna watch myself say it again. But I do watch things, and I try to take criticism, and I look at what I could do better. Like the microphone, that's what this came from, and the room spinning around where I'm not, like, you're not just seeing the black and white background now. That's all because of just these critiques that I have of my production, and saying that looks like shit, basically, and I could do better. So I'm trying to make it better every week. And one of the things that I noticed is there's almost like, I get into this mode where I talk faster, and I try to just like coup de grace. Like, I'm always going right for the throat of the topic. I don't slow it down. I'm not stretching it out. I'm not giving people time to think and absorb, because I'm just like running from topic to topic. So I'm trying to find ways to pace this out differently. Obviously, I forgot about the beginning portion. A lot of people don't get alerted about somebody going live until like sometimes 5-10 minutes after, or they're busy, you know, and they're finishing up something else before they jump on the stream. So I'm taking that into account, and I'm having this beginning portion so I can enjoy my coffee and I can let people file in. But also, I need to slow it down and space out more of what I'm talking about, because I kind of like, it sounds panicky, or like it just sounds almost robotic when I start getting into my own mind and I'm like thinking about these concepts, and I'm like, oh my God, like I gotta say this, and I'm gonna forget this. This was happening when I was looking at these topics. Like, I'll give you a sneak preview. Some of the stuff that I'm looking at, you know, like I looked at pride, and then I was like, oh, well, that's different than conceit. So I'm like, let's look up the definition of conceit. And then I was looking at ego, because that's different than being conceited as having a big ego. And I almost went down a rabbit trail of like false ego, and having an inferiority complex, but still having a big ego, and how narcissism has an inflated ego that's extremely fragile. And I might even talk about that, because there's just so many things, and I know so much about all these different little things that I want to like. You see, I'm doing it right now. Doing it right now. I get into this mode where I want to talk about things that I think are important. And I think, like, I know that I find nuance and these details of these individual concepts to be way more important than I think most people do. And that's kind of one of the things that I'm trying to promote here, is that having a better emotional vocabulary matters. Because I think this whole, we equivocate so many times, and we have false equivocation all the time of people's feelings, and then it justifies these negative things, and we demonize things that could be positive, because everything keeps getting thrown into these big buckets. So I went down some rabbit holes about shame and shamelessness and pride and arrogance. So there was just a lot. But I get into this mode like where I almost feel like, oh my God, while I have your attention, I really want to point out the difference between ego and conceit, or like shamelessness, and like where pride is bad, but where shame is bad. And oh man, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so I'm trying to make sure that I'm just not doing that as much. So I'm going to try to pace myself better today, slow it down, be ready for comments, ask more often for people to comment, so that it's more interactive and less of like a lecture hall. You know, I do want this to be like a hangout, like it was, you know, back in the day, like in 2020, it was a hangout. We hung out, we had fun, looked at stuff, looked up things, made fun of things on the internet, made some t-shirt designs, played around on MS Paint, photoshopped Rhea. Like, we did all kinds of stuff. So I'm trying to get back to more of a hangout and be less straight academic without losing the value of the stream, which I really do believe the unique value of the stream is going to be, and hopefully is already, that I'm talking about things that actually matter in your life, and not things that are just, you know, the crap that everybody, not the crap. I hate, that's not fair, but like the the same stuff that everybody talks about all the time. You know, like the things that the news is talking about, the things that come up on your Instagram feed every day, the things that pop up on TikTok every day, like the stuff that people are talking about in your day-to-day life. Like, I just don't want to be another one of those things that piles on like the thoughts of the day that we're all supposed to think. Because you do realize you're being programmed, right? Like, you realize if everybody's talking about the same things because it's what's on the internet, you're not in charge of what you're thinking about, right? Did you think about that? Or were you busy waiting for the next news topic to come up on YouTube? Or were you waiting for the next news article to pop on your news feed? Or were you waiting for somebody on Twitter to tweet about the next interesting topic that you're supposed to digest and consume and then think about and talk to your friends about? I'll wait. I think that's what most people do, and I don't want to play into that. I said this before. I said this in 2020 and 2021. I do not want this to be another current event stream. It's very easy to get into that. It's very, very easy to fall into that. There's only so many topics that you can go over before people start to think, wow, you know, that's kind of it's the same thing over and over. Which is funny, very funny to me, because if you look at news sites and current events streams, no offense, Jeremy, if you look at it on a long enough timeline, it also always repeats itself. It's the same people keep popping up, and you can like search by name, and you'll see, Ezra Klein, he's in this article from 2020, and then this one from 2020, this one 2021, this one 2022. It always repeats itself, and it's always about the same crap. But there's different names. Oh, a different person got canceled? Wow. Oh, a different person got hit with some kind of conspiracy or corruption charge? Wow. Like, it is the same thing over and over again. It's like sports ball. You know, sports ball is the same thing every year. Just different teams win. But it's always the same. Hey, team is winning. Look at this team. This team has this player. This player has a different name than player last year. But this player's hot, just like player last year was hot. This team's going to go somewhere. Oh, this team had an injury. It's the same thing over and over. So it's funny to me, like, and I thought about that. The temptation is there to talk about current events every day. And it gives you relevance, and it's really good for the YouTube algorithm, which sucks. And Twitch, you know, I don't think Twitch cares about that. But YouTube really cares about talking about current events. When you hashtag that shit, man, it really helps. But while that temptation's there, I really don't want to do that. And what I said before, which I think I'm going to continue on, I would rather do this for like 6 months, maybe a year, and have people come on that want to be here and talk and get familiar with it, and they get used to the time slot and they have fun. I would rather do that for an audience and build off of that, and it be smaller or grow slower than if I just hit the current topic of the week and then got a bunch of people to pile on because I happen to be the one viral video or broadcast about that topic that time. And I would rather shut this down than turn it into another current event stream. I'll find something else to do. I have plenty to do. I have plenty of things. I have lots of irons in the fire. I don't need to make this another bastardization of a news channel without having reporting and just reading news articles and then being critical of the people who write news articles, even though I'm not writing the news articles. But I digress. I do want this to set aside and be something useful, but I don't want it to be a lecture hall. You know, I don't want it to just be about reading the definition of something or an article and then telling you what it means. Like, I want to hang out and interact and get people's thoughts. Like, that's fun for me anyway. It's just more fun. It's like right now, like, I enjoy just sipping on coffee and hanging out. That's fun for me. All right. I do this in the morning by myself anyway. I'll sit there, I'll make coffee. I'll sit on the porch and I'll just chill. I'll read articles to myself and I'll learn about things, or I'll read a book, or I'll just be listening to a broadcast that I think is useful to learn about. So I would do this anyway. It's nice to set aside time. Happy to broadcast myself doing it, and it's nice when people want to hang out and chill. The hard thing is, it's not like I'm playing a video game. Like I was watching, I forget who I was watching yesterday. Bach Basoup and well, Bach isn't on right now, but I was watching Bach and I was watching Porgy, and they're playing Rust. They could focus on that. They don't need chat. They don't need you to talk. Like, they could still be playing the game. And in fact, sometimes they don't want to read chat because it's annoying and they say stupid things or they try to backseat game. But with a stream like this, it does matter that people are interacting, because I could read this myself and I could just absorb it and I don't have to read it aloud. I could save my voice. So it is good if you can interact in chat. That's great. If you can have people come on that you know that might be interested in the topics, please send them this way. Feel free to share the link to this chat or to this stream. I don't care where you're getting it on. If you're watching it on YouTube, again, here's the social media. YouTube.com/thelifecoach, or just copy it in your bar and send it off to people. And also on Instagram, you can find me there. And I don't know how to put that I'm live streaming on there, but I'll figure it out. So anyway, it does matter that people are interacting in this chat. And so there is going to be a certain level of people that get on here that will make it more fun. Then it'll be less like a lecture and more like a conversation, I think. All right, with that being said, let's get to the lecture. Well, not really, you know what I mean. I want to start by talking about pride as a definition, but I want to preface what I'm going to talk about today. I want to be really clear that I don't have a clear position on whether or not pride is bad. There are benefits and there are drawbacks. And what I'm hopefully going to, with this bit of dissection today, get to is that we have lost the benefits of pride and we've maximized the bad parts of pride. And I think there's a false equivocation between pride and shamelessness. I think those two things are kind of intertwined all the time now, and it's a very ugly marriage of words that have really messed things up, I think. I think that it has genuinely made our society worse, because we are a high ego, shameless society right now, and it just makes our motivations different than what they would be. Let me put it that way. But I am not saying that that means that we need to move to a prideful society and that a pride culture is the best culture. I don't know that that's true. Part of what I want to do, and part of this disclaimer, is I want to help you to understand, if you haven't really thought about this, really what the difference is in these words that exist that we don't use. That there is this plethora of emotional vocabulary words to describe our experience in the world, and like how we see ourselves versus our peers, how we see ourselves versus society at large, how we see ourselves internally versus externally. There's a lot of different words that we can use, and I think that really could benefit you. I know it benefits me to be more specific in what words we use when we're talking about these things. So let's move over to pride first. I chose Merriam-Webster. There's a bunch of different definitions and a bunch of different dictionaries. I think I say this every time that I do this, but a lot of them are bad. There's just a lot of really bad definitions of pride. Merriam-Webster had, whoa, pride. Hold on. They have a very good voiceover for pride, but also they had the better definitions. The definitions that I wanted to talk about for pride, there's certainly different ways to use the word pride, and we'll get into that. But this one is the quality or state of being proud, such as reasonable self-esteem, which, if you know me, you know I hate self-esteem in the psychology literature way, but I think self-worth is much better than self-esteem. But anyway, that's my personal peeve. But confidence and satisfaction in oneself. And I'm going to highlight confidence and satisfaction in oneself. The other synonym that they give is self-respect, which I think is huge. And it's a really important thing, self-respect. And I could do a whole stream on it, and I probably will. And you can stay tuned for that. Because I think self-respect involves a lot of things that maybe are not discussed on a day-to-day basis. but are important towards the concept and the full concept and understanding of respecting yourself. But self-respect is so much better than self-esteem. But confidence and satisfaction. I bring up satisfaction because satisfaction is very important. Satisfaction has to do with accomplishments or being satisfied. And we'll get into the definition of that because I actually have the definition at the end. But confidence, pleasure that comes from some relationship, association, achievement, or possession that is seen as a source of honor, respect, etc. So having pride is often related to an accomplishment or an achievement. It can be obviously related to a relationship or an association, but it's like when people are proud of their team. You know, like I live in New England. People get very, very proud of the Patriots. They get proud of all their teams. You know, it's like it's a very big thing. Obviously, you know, you didn't win the game, but your favorite sports ball team did. And good for your favorite sports ball team. And you should feel proud. And you see that in colleges, like where you have like pride, like college pride, like whatever, Amherst pride or like Boston pride. You have, it's an association. Like you feel good about being associated with a location. I'm from Philadelphia. There's a lot of pride there, Philly pride. It's like people talk about. That's a whole different weird relationship with where you live, but there's a certain pride to living in different cities. Lived in Scranton, never saw a Scranton Pride shirt, so it isn't every city. But there's an association with where you live or who you're associated with. There's people who are proud of their family members for being very accomplished. There are people who are very, you know, they have pride because they own something that maybe is rare. I have some really cool Nintendo, like NES, Nintendo Entertainment System games in the box with the cartridge and the booklet, complete thing. It's like all there. And I have Legend of Zelda 1 and 2 in the gold cartridge that has everything. I have Final Fantasy 1 with the map and the booklet. I'm very proud of those things. I didn't make them. I'm not proud of making them, but there's a certain pride of having such a cool thing in your possession. I had to find them. I had to work for them. I had to buy them. I had, seek them out and take care of them. So there is a certain level, like I respect the creators of these pieces of art, and I make sure that they're, taken care of and in good shape. They are played, of course. Of course. So let me just get off on a tangent here. Chickmate about games. I will not buy games that I can't play. I only have one thing that is still sealed in its plastic originally, and that is the original Nintendo Game Genie, which I also have in box with the full book and everything. And all of that has been opened, but the actual Game Genie device itself has never been taken out of the plastic. But I want to play the games, and I don't want to spend the money on games that, like those sealed games, like a sealed copy of like Mario Brothers 1 without Duck Hunt, for $15,000 or $100,000. I'm never doing that. I don't care. Even if I can afford that, I'm not doing it. It pleases me enough. I have enough pride, and I like it enough to have everything together, where it just looks like it would on the shelf of a person who was in the 80s, like you would look on their shelf and see their VHS collection, and you see their Nintendo collection, and it was all these boxes, that's, I want my bookshelf to look like it's from 1987. What can I say? Maybe 1991. But it just, I want to be able to play the games. I like the games. I've beaten Legend of Zelda 1 and 2 recently. Like, within the last year or two. I like them. I think it's fun. There are games that I haven't beaten, but I like to play them. So I take them out and then I play them and I put them back and I take care of them. I use the little swab and stuff, and I don't blow on them because that's the devil's work. And I maybe still blow on them sometimes, but only the older games that don't have a box and a booklet. But I do play the games. But I do take pride in owning those games. I think there's a sense of pride in a neighborhood that finally has a destination restaurant. That's such a stupid example that they give, but people have pride in their neighborhoods. And then there's C in the definition of pride. Exaggerated self-esteem. The synonym for that is conceit. So I was looking at that and I'm like, yeah, that's the pride we don't like. That's the annoying pride. We're like, man, aren't you proud of yourself? You know those people that are just like way over proud of themselves. Exaggerated self-esteem. So you see this, like I remember this in college, people who were on certain teams, people who were in certain fraternities, and they're so proud of themselves. Even though they're a twerp, they're annoying, but they're so proud of themselves for being part of that group because there are cool people in that group. Or that team does accomplish great things. My soccer team in college won the national championship like almost every year I was in college. It was a big deal. But the twerp wasn't playing the whole time. He wasn't on the soccer team. That's not true. But in different fraternities and other schools and things, I would have go home and people would come back and they would brag about being in these groups. It's an exaggerated self-esteem that's annoying. And that's part of the reason why I hate self-esteem. Self-esteem is not real. It's you convincing yourself that you're better than other people. But I like this conceit thing. So I want to stop here because I just talked about pride in definition A, which is reasonable self-esteem, which is funny because it's reasonable self-esteem in A, and then C, it's exaggerated self-esteem. But pride in the sense that you have confidence and satisfaction in yourself. So there's like a self-worth aspect there. And then B, where it's actually taking some sort of pleasure based on an association or an achievement that you have. But I just want to pause because, first of all, there's a delay in the stream. So I'm saying this and you're hearing it and watching it like maybe 12 to 20 seconds later, maybe 30 seconds, depending on the latency. So I want to pause and let you guys say whatever you want to say about this, or if you're ready to move on, we can move on to conceit, because I do want to talk about conceit. But if you want me to continue to talk about pride, or if there's anything that you would like to add to pride, I'm happy to wait on that too. So this is more interactive than me just talking for an hour and a half. Is conceit or undeserved pride synonymous with entitlement? So that's a really interesting bunch of things that you just said there, because conceit, and we'll get into the definition of conceit. Why bury the lead? Conceit is a favorable opinion, but it says especially an excessive appreciation of one's own worth or value. So it's like you super have a favorable opinion of yourself. You're like, you really, really like yourself. Now, undeserved pride. So undeserved is the part where it would take the group or the other to evaluate that person doesn't really, they shouldn't be too proud of that. And I think that there's a place where you got to be careful about that. Like I find this in New England, especially in suburban Boston. There is a lot of money here. And there are people who have never set foot in a house that was more than 20 years old. And so growing up where I grew up and having the nothing that I had, and I still have most of it, take for a property that I have in Pennsylvania is 100 years old, and I love it. And I'm very proud of the work that I did on that house. I'm very proud of what's been accomplished in that house. People have met their significant others who then went on to become married or engaged multiple times. People have gotten graduate degrees and figured out college. People have healed from sexual assault and terrible things in their life. People have really become the best versions of themselves and moved on from that house. And it has a legacy. The house has a legacy. I'm very proud to say that I helped provide a home, not just a house, but a home of love and support and positivity for years and years and years. I'm very proud of that house. And so I'm selling that house, it's hard in and of itself. That's difficult. And somebody might walk into that house from here, for instance, and be like, oh, dude, press the pause button on that pride. You really shouldn't be too proud. It's not that nice. Because from their perspective, I'm really kind of over proud about this kind of crappy house that's very old and has a lot of imperfections and has been painted a million times and has carpet, God forbid, in some of the floors. What are you doing, dude? You shouldn't really be that proud of this house. There's no tile, there's no hardwood floors. it's a mess. It's not in a great neighborhood. So to the other, they might think that my pride is undeserved. They don't believe I deserve to be as proud as I am of that house. But my pride in my perception of my pride in that house feels very well deserved. So that's tough. Undeserved pride is tough. But conceit is like if I believed it was the best house ever and it was way better than your house and it's way better than the nice houses. In fact, it's the nicest house on earth. That's more conceit. That's more like, okay, buddy, like, yeah, I get it, but it's not the nicest house by far. It doesn't have central air, and that's kind of a big deal in the summer. So how dare you have carpet? Yes, how dare you? Carpet is kind of, I like tile a lot. I like tile floors on a downstairs a lot. I like area rugs. But carpet's so much cheaper. And when you have a crappy floor and having to redo the whole floor, it's so expensive. So yeah, how dare I have carpet? For sure. But if I was like overly like proud of that house, I would say that would be, I'm conceited about that house. So I do think that's a fair play and it's a fair call if that's what's going on. But the thing about this definition of conceit and even of pride being like, if you look in the here, A, reasonable self-esteem, C, exaggerated self-esteem. Aren't they subjective? Like, oh man, you're hamming it up. They're really exaggerated. But really? Maybe not. But conceit is this. That's why I kind of like to go through and do different definitions, because some of them are very subjective, and some definitions, man, they're terrible. They use the word in the definition. They have tautological definitions where you need to have the word and it just continues to define itself in its own little, like, it becomes this, well, that's just a terrible definition. But yeah, so conceit, I do think, I don't know if it's synonymous with entitlement. I'd have to think about that. Is conceit synonymous with entitlement? I think they're different. I think that a profile of a person could be conceited, and that person would feel entitled to respect that maybe they don't deserve from the lens of the wider audience. So, like, if I told you, like, man, I had like one more person view me yesterday than the day before, y'all better bow down. I am actually Streamer of the Year. I think that would be like conceited, and I think that would be an entitlement to, like, I'm kind of like pushing people around and trying to like overblow what I'm actually have accomplished, and then I'm telling people that I'm entitled to more respect than I deserve. So I do think it lives there. I think it's in that spectrum. But that's kind of why I'm picking this all apart, because I do think that they are different. They are different things, but I hope that makes sense. And I can dig into entitlement more, but I do want to talk about conceit a little bit specifically, because it means a lot of different things. It's actually like, it's a fanciful idea. It's an elaborate theme, or it's an elaborate metaphor or strained metaphor. And the use or presence of such conceits in poetry, it's cool. It's kind of a cool word, but it's a negative word when we talk about it in terms of how you feel about yourself. Oh, they're very conceited. Like, they're very full of themselves. The interesting thing about conceit, though, is that it does like, look at how it's used. The landlord's conceit of his own superior knowledge. So he does have superior knowledge, but he kind of overblows his value because of that. So I do, like, it's weird because you can kind of be conceited. It's almost like when you talk about somebody, it's like, yeah, they're kind of a dick, but they are really smart. Like, where you're like, he's really, really rich and he's a jerk about it, but he really is rich. Like, so conceit is almost like, it's not that you're wrong that you're a big deal. It's that you're a jerk for pointing it out. Like, you're not, like, you could be proud of something that you do, but if you're a jerk about it, like, and that's kind of how I view being conceited, is like, you're being a jerk about how big of a deal you think you are. And some people are just self-aware. And I know people who are more like on the spectrum, like, and they genuinely are not super socially aware, and they're not super great at social interactions. And they'll just tell you flat out, like, well, yeah, I'm really good at this. This is a thing that I'm excellent at. I'm the top 200 people in the world of it. So, okay, good on you, man. But, and they're not proud of it even. I think it's more of a statement of fact. I don't feel that coming off of them, but it does come off as sort of rude and like a jerk thing sometimes. And that's something that I've worked with people on, doing some improvements on their social functioning. So that's conceit. I think conceit is it's more of being a jerk about what you're proud about. I think that's the best way to look at it. But it's related to ego. But again, I want to stop. If I did not explain conceit well enough, I'm happy to stay on that topic. I think it's not that big of a difference between pride and conceit. I just think it's really being a jerk. And I by the way, I wanted to talk about conceit being different than pride because I think pride gets put up there as if it's conceit, like that you're conceited if you're proud of something, and I don't think that's true. Like I see this a lot, like, and people get jealous. And I talked about this yesterday, and that's sort of why I'm kind of flowing into this from guilt to making other people feel like they should be guilty. I think that those live in the same place, which is why I think guilt is a very evil process to engage in, because I think that jealousy and resentment, bitterness about somebody else's success is all over the internet. I mean, I see that like crazy. I think that a lot of it's kids be trolling. I think that's fine, but I think a lot of it's genuine hatred of people who are more successful. I really do. And I think we drum it up and we allow for it, and we don't teach kids to like not be so, especially like young adults, we don't teach them to be humble because they haven't been around that long and they haven't suffered as long as other people. And that, hey, the person who's been alive and working for 20 years longer than you probably should have a better car than you, probably should have a nicer rig than you, probably should be online and talking about their experiences because they have a hell of a lot more than you. But we don't teach that. And I think that there is a natural resentment that people have toward people who are more successful because that jealousy breeds aggression, which can be channeled into appropriate ways of becoming more successful yourself. But that negative emotional state, I think, is horrible. And it happens all the time. Some of my favorite streamers, some of my favorite people online, and I'm sure they know who they are, they're very successful. And I love that about them. Like, I love that they're happy and they're successful and their lives are better and they're doing great things. Like, man, it makes me happy. It not only does it show me it can be done, but I love that good people are doing well, because everybody talks about how like, oh, bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. Look at these guys. They're great people and good things are happening to them and they're happy. Holy shit. It's almost like there's some things that are right in the world, and why, but people shit on that. They go after people. They start picking at them and trying to dox them or just say nasty things and make fun of them for stupid things online, like literally like children. And by the way, it's not all children. So I think that comes from that resentment. I think comes from people equating pride with their accomplishments, because they'll be honest about what they've worked for and achieved, and being conceited. They are different. And that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I don't think all pride is bad. I think if you're proud of yourself because you did something great, good. You should be. Like, cheers. So anyway, all that to say, I'm okay with pausing while people tell me that I didn't do a good job describing conceit. But if not, we're going to move on to ego. And I'll try to come back to it if you catch this a little bit late. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually like come in late, and so you might be coming in very late and saying something about it. I'll do my best to manage that as well. But I do see 2 people on Twitch already. And so that comes through pretty easily for me. All right, so let's talk about ego. Because ego is, again, it's not always bad, but it's not the best. Someone's ego is their sense of their own worth. If someone has a large ego, they think they are very important and valuable. Ooh, here we go. No, that's not what I wanted. Who says ego? Lego my ego. That's really weird. That's really weird. All right, anyway, ego is fine. Ego is literally it's a neutral term. It's just your sense of your own self-worth. And I use the Collins definition. Collins kind of puts different words together. They're not like a dictionary, but they put different resources together, and I think there's some weird algorithm or something, and they smash it up and they come up with a compound definition, because you can't just look up big ego. You can read articles on it, but you can't just look. There's no definition of big ego. I mean, there is, but it's not great. I looked it up. So your ego is your sense of self-worth. What does that mean? We all are always comparing ourselves to a few things: society at large, the values and successes and what we believe success to be in our culture, and individuals around us, and our previous selves or our projected future selves. So, and then our expectations versus today. So there's a lot of things we compare ourselves to. We don't live in a vacuum in the world. Human beings very much are comparing themselves, and there's upward and downward comparisons. So some people are comparing themselves to other people who are, like not doing as well. And they're like, yeah, I'm doing good. Like, they're happy about it. And then there's people who are always looking at the people above them and saying, man, I'm just not good enough and I'm not doing it. I don't make enough money. I'm not strong enough. I don't look good enough. And they're doing like this constant upward comparison. But ego is just this idea that we do that. You do have an ego. I have an ego. This whole ego death movement, as if it's a real thing that will permanently exist, is just nonsense. I don't know where that came from, that people think that, oh, well, I talked to this guru and then, they showed me ego death and now I don't have an ego because I killed my ego. I mean, damn, man, you were really in your own head, and you really care about what you think about yourself. Like, you had to go in and kill your ego. Seems pretty loaded. It seems pretty like self-aggrandizing and self-centered. I don't know. I think it's kind of impossible to address your ego and kill it without first having a pretty big one. So an overinflated ego is saying that you overestimate your value versus everybody else. So when somebody has a really big ego and they walk in a room and they just think everybody should be really interested in what they have to say, they think that they should be in the front of the line. They think that they should drive up and pull up in front of somebody else. I had a guy today. I was driving in a parking lot and I'm just waiting for a second. And I was literally just waiting for like a minute, and I was going to move. And the guy's parked right next to me, and he can't get out for like a second, and he's beeping like, beep, beep, be like, oh my God. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like looking over and then putting the car in reverse and getting ready to back up past him so that he can go, and then I was going to take his parking space. He literally is ready. He's getting out of the car to come over and tell me like, hey, can you move? He wasted time because I was already driving backwards, and he's just like, thanks. And I'm like, are you okay? And he's just like, so like, huh. And he's got, it's a brand new car, very nice car, probably like a $80,000 car, whatever. So obviously he's super important, but that's a big ego. That's somebody who thinks, you know what? Obviously I'm so important that if you only knew my time was being interrupted with your time, you would just immediately get out of my way. Helpful hint number 482. That is a really bad idea with me because I took it extra slowly because I'm that guy. Because that is so stupid. Like, I've just always been that guy. Like, don't try to flex an ego on somebody who really doesn't care about it. Like, I don't care about your time. I don't care about your ego. You're gonna have a problem. And I just love getting people's ire up that have a big ego, because that's amusing to me, and those monkeys can dance for me. So, but that's a big ego. And a big ego is like just assuming that everybody around you is less than you, and so your needs and your wants are more important than everybody else's. Now, I say overinflated, meaning larger than your station in life, larger than your post. So if you actually are an EMT in an ambulance, and I have a t-shirt over here. I bought it from Till Valhalla. It's actually a really good nonprofit. Not a sponsor because it's a nonprofit. What the hell? But it is a great nonprofit organization that helps change the lives of veterans and police officers, emergency workers that are otherwise going through quite a bad ordeal, and they do a lot of services to help those people. And you can go to Till Valhalla, T-I-L Valhalla, I'm not going to spell that for you, and you can get t-shirts, and you just buy some cool stuff from them, and then they donate that money to people who put together different pieces of art and things to actually give physically to veterans and people who are suffering with depression and PTSD and loss. So it's great. They're just great. So I have that t-shirt actually today. I was wearing it today all day. I just put on button-downs and polos for the stream. I don't actually walk around looking like this. Don't worry. But anyway, if it's an ambulance and an EMT or a police officer, or somebody who's an emergency services vehicle, I'm getting out of the way because it is important. It's much more important that they get going. They're ready to go do something that is much more important than what I'm doing. So that would not be like, look at that ambulance driver. Look at his stupid ego. No, you got to get out of the way. It's important for you to move out of the way. So that's an inflated ego versus like, it's just an overestimation versus the reality of your situation. So that's a big ego. That's different than conceit. But it's related. And this is why it's important, because conceit is excessive appreciation of your own worth or virtue. In my estimation, what that means is you are overly happy and pleased with yourself over something that you did or accomplished or own. So they're a bit conceited about what that association is with that university or that city that they lived in for like half a year, and then I'm all Brooklyn. Like, dude, you lived there for 6 months. You're not Brooklyn. You're not hard. But ego is an inflated ego or a grossly large ego is often like an overestimation at large of somebody's moral value, not just their accomplishments, but they are just by virtue of their birth. And you know these people, you know what I'm talking about. By virtue of their birth, they're more important than everybody else. So it's different. You can be proud of yourself and maybe a little overly proud, and you're a little conceited. But somebody who has a big ego is separately just a total ass all the time because they're always more important than everybody else. Does that make sense? Do people agree, disagree? I just want to make sure I'm, again, taking a pause. In fact, guess what? We're going to take a coffee break so that I can fill up and get more fresh, hot coffee. So we're going to do a BRB LOL. This is a perfect time for that. I didn't even see the time. Holy moly. Stay tuned. Actually, yeah, if you guys could comment and let me know your thoughts, I'll BRB LOL. I'm going to get some coffee. I'll be right back. We're back. See, that wasn't that bad. Wasn't gone that long. How you party people doing? I got more coffee. If you'd like, we can do a second. I'm not going to say, again, not saying simultaneous sip because I think that's TM. That's, forget who that is that does that. But I'm happy to drink a bit of coffee with you or your favorite beverage. For some people, it's been Miller time for a while, and that's fine. If you have some wine, if you have some water, if you're just getting done working out, you got your post-workout drink, whatever. So just cheers to you. I have noticed, I will say this, let me just pause this music. I really don't know how the levels work out there for you guys, but I have noticed I get a lot of these lurkers, and I go back and I look later at who's viewing, because you can see who's viewing. Like, you can go back and see who's watched your video and who's been on. I get a lot of these lurkers for the streams, and it's interesting. I hope that you're getting something out of it, even if you're a lurker. Like, let's say that you're one of the people that just kind of hangs out. If you can text me later or email me or send me something on Instagram or, God forbid, Twitter, and let me know if you got something out of it, that would be helpful. Because I'm happy to do this as more of like have something on in the background. You can just listen to me talking about these things while you're making dinner. I mean, it's like 9 o'clock Eastern. So if you're West Coast, it's 6 o'clock. Maybe you're just making dinner, just finished, you're hanging out. Maybe you're working out, you're going for a walk or a drive. And I'd love to be that thing in the background, listening to some smooth ASMR, life coaching and strategies for how to live a better life. Like, I could do that too. I mean, I was doing Jerry Seinfeld earlier today for somebody because my other studio has a brick wall behind it. So they thought it was like a comedy club thing. But just let me know. I'd be happy to know that people are getting something out of it as more of a podcast format than it is like a discussion. Also, that will shift how things go with this in terms of like if people are really liking this as a podcast format, and then I'll start to put it out there on, podcast, whatever. I'll put it out on iTunes and Spotify and wherever all the dang kids do with their DVDs and MP3s and whatever. I'll put all that out there, and I will keep it at this pace and tone and things like that. But if you find it to be interruptive that I'm reading chat, I'll wait until the end and then I'll address chat. But if you like being in the chat and like it being more interactive, then let me know that too, because that's going to help. You will help shape this channel. If you're one of the new people, if you're one of the people who's here in the beginning of this, it's just the first 2 weeks that I'm back to doing this, you have a way, way more influence in how this goes than people who show up when there's 1,000 people watching. Just, obviously, 1 of 6, 1 of 4, 1 of 10 you're going to have a much oversized influence versus 1 of 100, 1 of 1,000. So let me know. Your input genuinely is important, because I don't really care. I don't care how this goes. I just like hanging out on the evenings and talking about psychology and philosophy. This literally is my idea of a good time. It's nerdy, it's fun, it's something that people don't talk about. It's topics that are not being spoken of anywhere else. And I mean, if you're not in college, which again, I have announcements about that later on. Some of you already know. But like, if you're not in college or grad school, you're kind of starved out from any academic conversations. Like, I ask people this a lot. Like, in high school, kids read books a lot. In junior high, in middle school, like, kids are reading a lot of books because they're just kind of getting into novels. So they're reading a ton. And then there's required reading, and there's books for history and books for English class. They're getting through classic literature. So there's a lot of reading. Some of it's for pleasure, but most of it, if you didn't even want to read, you're reading a lot because you have to. Then I ask college students every time they come back from their freshman year, what have you read for fun? And almost nobody says anything. It's almost never. It's almost just, I read the articles for class. I read my books for class, if they did. Let's be real, a lot of you guys, I know you didn't, but a lot of people did, and they didn't read anything fun. And so, one of the things that I recommend for people is to read a book for fun in the summer. Just one, and that's hard. So by the time that people get out of undergrad, if they don't go to grad school, a lot of people stop reading books entirely. I mean, that's crazy. Think about that. Like, man, this bookshelf has all kinds of crap that I've read. I'm reading all the time, but I do find myself reading articles and like academic articles and some news articles and things like that. I do read a lot of those more than I read books. It's, it sucks. Like, and I do have to make a concerted effort to like one of my favorite things to do every year around Thanksgiving, and then from Thanksgiving to Christmas, or that time period, I get a book and I just rip through that book. In like a week, I just will rip through a book, and then another week I'll rip through a book. And between the 25th of December and like the 1st of January. I like to read one book that I've been looking at all year and that I put on the shelf and I didn't read. I think this year it's Monsters Unleashed by James Acleon. If I don't finish that by then, I'm gonna rip through that at the end of the year, because I have to just continue to read for fun, because if you're not reading, you're really not getting long form written information. That's pretty scary. To me, that's like being an astronaut and not having a tether to the space station. Like, you're not grounded at all. All you're reading is headlines of articles and taglines, and you're just listening to what other people said they read in the news. You're talking to people at work or whatever about what they read in the news or what they saw, but there's not like a lot of people talking about the latest book they read. The movies, sure, if it's like, a 3-hour Marvel movie, people talk about that all the time. But it's scary that like we don't really engage in true deep conversation with each other. I mean, you can even people I know that listen to podcasts of conversations between people for 2 hours, they can do a Joe Rogan episode, but they're not having those conversations with they're having soundbite conversations with each other. They're not having these long form discussions. They're not sitting through like, I don't know, like a 2-hour live stream on something academic at all. I mean, so you guys are, you're crazy. It's cool. I like it, but it is very rare for adults who are busy, who get into a rhythm, to even discuss anything academic at all. And I mean, this is barely academic. I'm talking about definitions. It's just like literally looking up definitions right now. I mean, sometimes I'll do articles, and yesterday I had a blog. I have something from Britannica that I'm going to dig into more, and we can get into some psych journal stuff, and we'll get into that more. It's one of the cool things that's coming up soon. In October, I'll be able to have access to, I think, EBSCOhost again. So I'll be looking at a lot of academic articles that we'll be able to really nerd out on that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you like that, maybe you don't, but I think that's fantastic. But I've noticed that since I've not been in grad school and I haven't been in the college scene, people don't really talk about any academic things. So like, we're just kind of like, what? We're like trusting academics somewhere to come up with research that then they give to journalists, and those people come up with articles that we read the headlines and bullet points for, and that's what we consider learning now. This is where we're at. Think about your life in the last 10 years and tell me that's not true. It's true politically, it's true scientifically, it's true in entertainment, it's true in your own field. Tell me that's not true. I'd love to hear it. But we really don't, by and large, put aside time to think critically and learn academically about even our own fields of interest. That's why people's information is typically outdated the first year they graduate from grad school. Because you lose access to all that information, and you lose the dedicated time that you were spending growing and learning in your field. You have to make that time. You have to like specifically dig in and take the time to do that. You have to be subscribed to journals and magazines and pay to get this information. And then you need to stay in touch with people who are also in your field and are interested academically in discussing these things with you. That's a lot of work. Who has time for that? You got to raise kids. You got to work. You're tired. You know that glass of wine isn't going to drink itself. There's always an excuse. But we don't do it. So, again, that's my shtick. That's my soapbox about why I think something like this is valuable. But you let me know. You guys are in charge. You tell me what you like. If you like more of the discussion and the interrupted format, awesome. If you like kind of just to lurk and just listen to it in the background and get some words of wisdom and information here and there, that's cool too. But just let me know. It's already kind of starting to get cold. I might have to get a fresh mug. And I don't have a sink here, which is unfortunate. I have to go downstairs, and there's a bathroom in the office building. So the next studio will have a full coffee bar with a sink. Oh, yes, it will be mine. All right, let's go on. Let's talk about shame. Yeah, let's talk about shame. All right, so I picked this also because not only does it have to do with ego, but very specifically, it deals with guilt. And if you did not see yesterday's stream, I encourage you to go on either YouTube. youtube.com/thelifecoach, or stay on Twitch, look at the VOD. I haven't deleted it yet, and watch the stream about guilt, because I feel very strongly about this, and I'm probably not going to talk about it again for a while unless somebody really gets me going on it. But guilt is horrible, and it's not an emotion. Fight me. It's not an emotion. And the reason why I say that is because in this definition from Cambridge, it says an uncomfortable feeling of guilt or being ashamed because of your own or someone else's bad behavior. Again, useful definition for what shame is. I think inaccurate in its wording and saying the feeling of guilt, because I do believe that the feeling of shame exists. I think it's a natural feeling, and there's documentation of that going back thousands of years, that there's shame. Guilt is a matter of fact. And again, I'm not going to get into the whole thing. Watch the stream after this and then come back and talk to me and let me know if you disagree. Put it in the comment section below. Oh my God, I'm that guy. Okay. Ashamed because of your own or someone else's bad behavior. I love that it uses the word ashamed in the definition of shame. It is disappointing or not satisfactory. Ooh, there's a little. In the UK, it's a little bit more peppy. This seems sad. This seems kind of happy about it. I don't know. If you've been around for a while, you know that I love playing around with those. But anyway, it is disappointing or not satisfactory, and it's in your behavior or someone else's behavior. Loss of honor or respect. So this is like when somebody shames you, or that this person has been shamed. Shame on you. But the idea of shame is that it's uncomfortable. You feel uncomfortable because of either something you did or what somebody else did. I mean, that's like that. Talk about ownership over somebody else's behavior. Please don't get into that. Don't feel ashamed for someone else. I mean, even if they're in your tribe or your group or your team or your fraternity or your home or your city, it's not your behavior. For the same reason that I really don't understand why you are proud of a team doing something that you live near and therefore it's somehow your victory. I don't think that you should be feeling shame for other people's negative behavior. It's just not a good coat to wear. It's a heavy coat to wear, and it's not one you can do anything about because it's not your behavior. You can't hear the pronunciation. Hold on. Shame. Shame. You can't hear that? That's weird. Let me see if video capture device. That's weird. Video capture device. No. Audio input. Wouldn't it be under audio output? Oh, you know why? Can you guys hear the music when I play that? It's coming through from Zoom. Oh, there it is. Can you hear that? You can't hear any music in the background right now? Okay, yes to music. But you can't hear this? It's showing that it's in there. You seriously can't hear that? No to shame? Wow, that's weird. That's a shame. Wow, that sucks. I have to figure that out. Maybe that's a separate audio input that I have to do from Chrome. But I'll figure that out. But thanks for telling me. That's an interesting troubleshoot to have to figure out. I wonder how that's going to work out. We'll figure it out. But anyway, I won't keep playing with those then because that's just amusing me and nobody else. That's good to know. So shame is this idea that you feel badly about a behavior, which, again, this goes back to comparison. It's all based on, the reason why I'm bringing this up, it's all based on social comparison. So there is a way you believe you should act. There are things you think you should do, and there are things you think you should not do. Shame is when you either did something that you think you shouldn't have done, or you didn't do something that you probably should have done in your own estimation. This is why people who have very big egos often will feel very, very strong shame when they're called to the carpet for behaving in a way that is less than what is expected. They'll try to hide their mistakes more often. They will cower when you threaten them with blackmail. These are the kind of people who can't handle public shame because they believe they're so much better, but that facade quickly comes to the forefront when you bring them to the reality of, hey, you screwed this up royally. No worries. I just thought you'd want to know. Thank you. No, I definitely appreciate that. Please always let me know if there's something technical that's not working, because it's just something I have to troubleshoot later. But the idea of shame for somebody who has a really big ego, it's a lot easier for them to feel ashamed because they feel their worth is really high. But there's the opposite. There's shamelessness. Shamelessness is not ashamed, especially about something generally considered unacceptable. So there has been a rash of shamelessness in our advertising, in our media, in our culture, in our society, that you should not feel ashamed for not meeting the standards of the culture that you live in, whether that's your family. There's tons of movies about kids doing things that their parents disapprove of, and that's somehow a good thing just inherently. It's not always a bad thing, but it's always described as something that's just good because you're rebelling, and rebellion is just inherently good. Being reactionary is just good. That if there's a standard, you should break through the standard because that's just good. And so that has bred this idea of shamelessness. But there's an ugly side to shamelessness that is it's like a side effect. Everything has a side effect. It doesn't matter what you try to prescribe to a society to make it like better or worse. And I'm not I am kind of making a judgment about what's better or worse. Let me put it this way. There were good reasons for people to break through the barriers of shame that existed 50, 60 years ago. I think, in my estimation, in my humble opinion, which is humble because I'm not the arbiter of what makes a good society. There were good reasons for it. But the side effect of the continual message that you should not be ashamed of anything is weirdly reverse engineer this, and if feeling ashamed is more likely because you have an ego, which is that you have a sense of worth in the world, and that ties to having a healthy amount of self-esteem, and that's why you're able to feel ashamed when you don't meet that standard that you have for yourself because you think of yourself as being a good person in society or someone of value. Logically, guess what happens when you have no shame? Side effects may include feelings of worthlessness. Suicide is on the rise. That comes from feeling like you don't deserve to live. That comes from feeling worthless. If there's nothing that we are to be ashamed of, we have no standards for ourselves. Without standards for ourselves, our ego suffers, meaning our belief that we have value in the world has been degraded, deteriorated. It's a bad side effect. I don't know what the answer is, but it's something worth considering. Are you teaching your kids shame, or are you teaching them shamelessness? Are you teaching them that they have value in this world, but that's tied to their performance and their behavior? Or are you teaching them that no matter how well they do, no matter what they produce or don't, no matter what they add to the people around them, they're just as valuable as everybody else? Now, morally, that might be true. Every sperm is sacred. If you're Monty Python. That's what, meaning of life? The reference, meaning of life? Maybe every individual is equally valuable morally in the sense that, like, you know, they all have the potential and value that we want to protect. But do we really want everybody feeling like no matter what they do, they have the same value? Or do we want to create a sense of pride? Sometimes, not conceit, not an overdoing it, but maybe some pride. Maybe we want to teach pride because it's tied to performance, satisfaction in something you've accomplished or some place you've achieved, something you've acquired on your own merit. Maybe we want to teach a little pride. And maybe then that requires shame, because it's two sides of the same coin, when they don't perform the way they should. Whether that's doing something that they know they shouldn't do or not doing something they know they should do. It's interesting to me that we still have sports in America. It really is, genuinely. Because people have pride when their team does well, they perform well, and they feel shame when their team performs terribly. It's not a good feeling when your team loses. It's a great feeling when your team wins. We are tying value to performance on a massive scale. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Every sport, every major sport, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. But we are continually trying to teach at an academic level, at a t-ball level, at a small sports level, that everybody wins and everybody is okay. And your value is not in whether or not you won. It's that you had a good time, which to some degree is totally true. I mean, if you got little kids, like, I want to see like a 3-year-old kicking a soccer ball and the dad's like, "You didn't make a goal, kid," and just like spears them. Like, I don't really want to see that. And there's plenty of toxicity in sports when it comes to vicariously living through your kids. And some of you already know, well, that's a whole conversation I'll probably talk about another time. But that being said, you can overdo it the other way and have there be nothing to be proud of because there's nothing to be ashamed of. And I think truly a shameless society is a valueless society, and I mean that both in morals and having actual values and standards, but also in self-worth. It's just like that's a really sad place to be in, and genuinely it's a very suicidal place to be. So if you want to improve people's chances of making it through this tough time in life and get them to not be as depressed, find some things for you to help them build some pride from. Increases their ego. Oh no. It's okay. They can have some ego. It just can't be an overinflated ego. I mean, it can be if you want. But what would you rather? Would you rather somebody is a little bit more full of themselves or suicidal? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious which one is better. There's an ugly side to pride. What does pride comes before the fall mean? The expression comes from the book of Proverbs in the Bible. It's sometimes quoted as pride goeth before the fall. The original quote from the King James Bible is pride goeth before destruction and on haughty spirit before a fall. Some theologians interpret this to mean that a proud person will be condemned to hell. That's pretty straightforward because they believe that that's like a sin. It goes together with the idea that humble people will be rewarded in heaven. It also means that an arrogant person is more prone to sin and therefore will receive punishment. And now, but it's not always religious. This has some really practical wisdom to it. People say it's a warning not to be too arrogant because hubris can cause you to make mistakes. And so pride itself, if you're proud for pride's sake and you're always searching for pride alone, an arrogant person might think they can't screw up, too big to fail. We're the good guys. Obviously, no matter what we do, it's justified to win this election. We have to win and be on the board, and we have to be successful, and we have to make more money than our friends and neighbors because we're the good guys. That's the hubris. So anything we do, the ends justify the means. That's the pride that comes before the fall. It's a dangerous place. It's a dangerous path to go down. That thinking that you must win and that you get this conceitedness, ego can get too large, and arrogance is a real danger to instilling a society with pride. So I don't know the answer, but I do think it's important to point out that pride can be dangerous. And arrogance is unpleasantly proud and behaving as if you are more important than or know more than other people. You know arrogant people. I know arrogant people. Some people that are very arrogant I love talking to because they're very funny. But arrogance is unpleasant. It's an unpleasant pride. I just love that that's why I chose Cambridge Dictionary. It's quite unpleasantly proud. And so I just thought that was fantastic. Arrogance is a dangerous line to ride because it can cause you to be hated, and then people are gunning for you, which can really hurt your success because it does take a network of people that support you and care about you and want you to succeed in order to really make it. Arrogance can get in the way of that. But there's an arrogance that I cannot fail that will surely lead to your destruction. That's the pride that comes before the fall. So I wanted to bring that up as like, there is this, there's this dangerous aspect to this whole pride thing. So it's not all roses, and it's like shamelessness, yes, I think has some really negative side effects, and we've gone way too far over on that side of things. We've really eliminated pride as a value, I think. And even in the Bible, like this is the thing about religion too. Blessed are the poor in spirit, this whole idea of being humble. Yes, being humble is cool and it makes you easier to hang out with, but there's a place where that's dishonest too. Like the humble brag. I have a picture somewhere on the computer still of humble brag. I love humble brag. It's dangerous to lie to yourself and others about being too good or too bad. That's dangerous. You're a liar. You're being dishonest. That doesn't help. There's cognitive dissonance. That's a whole thing that I talk about all the time. Not talking about it today. But yeah, I mean, being too humble is not always a good thing. So arrogance is the other side of that, though. It's too much. It's being a little too raff. Catch that reference if you can. You got 5 seconds. Nope. Okay. It's okay. You don't have to get it. So let's talk about my last point that I wanted to make today, which is satisfaction. Satisfaction is a fantastic word. It has a lot to do with pride. It has a lot to do with deeds. But there are some really cool things about the word satisfaction that relate to guilt, actually, and screwing up. And that maybe if satisfaction was the value that we focused on, and again, I don't know the answer, but if I were to have to propose an answer for how do we balance shamelessness and pride, I think satisfaction might be the value that we insert here, that we laud, that we propel, that we're trying to enforce. Maybe. Here's why. Definition 1, a happy or pleased feeling because of something that you did or something that happened to you. So he gets or derives great satisfaction from volunteering, the satisfaction of a job well done. There's satisfaction in knowing that I was right. That's cool because it's satisfaction in something that you actually did. I like the idea of satisfaction from volunteering. She finds a certain satisfaction in helping others. What a great word. It seems like you can feel satisfied from doing good things. Opposite, dissatisfaction. The act of providing what is needed or desired, the opposite is dissatisfaction. So it's the opposite of that. Then there's the act of providing what is needed or desired, the act of satisfying a need or a desire. So let's say that there was a need for more blankets in the local shelter, and you provided those. That's like satisfaction squared because you felt a sense of satisfaction for providing those, but also you satisfied the need of those blankets. So satisfaction's pretty cool. There's also satisfaction of a debt. It's a result that deals with a problem or complaint in an acceptable way. So you did something wrong. You screwed up. So we talked about guilt. You are actually guilty of some sort of thing that takes away from society. You hurt somebody, you screwed something up, you broke somebody's store window, whatever. You did some things. You've said some things. Satisfaction can be what atones for that. It's a contrition. It's a completion. It makes something whole that you have maybe made unwhole or incomplete. Unwhole. Hey, I'm a child. So that's a cool word. You've satisfied a debt. You've satisfied the need for restitution. You've satisfied your bill. So satisfaction's really cool. And then to someone's satisfaction, so that someone is happy, pleased, or satisfied with something you did. So you got a job. You cleaned up the front of the store. You made sure the decorations were appropriate for the holiday. You greeted all of the people that showed up in a friendly way. You answered all the phone calls. The sales are up for the day. You were helpful at the end of the day, and you didn't leave until everything was completed. Manager comes in, boss comes in. They're very satisfied with the work you did. They had a list of expectations. You met all their expectations. So now they feel satisfied, and you can feel satisfied and even, dare I say, proud, because you have satisfied the needs of that employer. And then they have to satisfy you by paying you for your time. And then that debt has been paid. It's been satisfied. I just think satisfaction is a really great word. It's something that, man, it can make everybody feel better all the way around in a way that is more along the lines of contentment and less along the lines of happiness, that drug, that immediate gratification. It's satisfaction. It's such a big word. It has so much more to it. So maybe, and this is my advocacy for making satisfaction sexier, maybe that's the word that we're trying to teach. Because you can't be shameless. You have to feel dissatisfied if you know that there's an expectation of you and you didn't meet it. You have to. So it fights shamelessness, but it's the good side of pride. And if you let that hubris that arrogance get up there, then you're going to cause other people to be displeased and dissatisfied with you. So maybe that's the panacea. I doubt it. I think it's probably more complicated than that. I think that there's going to be a lot more work needed. But I thought I would bring this to your attention. I thought I would talk about it with you. And, guys. Hold on. We're going to go to the next one. We're playing this. Yes. That's such a great The More You Know. I didn't even know that existed. I just saw Michael Scott and I was like, oh, this is going to be good. Well, Steve Carell, but that's the real The More You Know for the day. Everything that I just said is not as valuable as that rabies PSA. Wait, you can't hear friggin' YouTube either? This is BS. It's showing up on the levels. Hold on. I'm not satisfied until you guys can hear this. Audio. What would that be? Audio input. Add a new source. Browser sound. I have no idea how to make this added. No, that's not it. Let's see. Browser source. Okay, let's do that. And let's make it... No. All right, so let's make it the rabies awareness. This is like such a temporary solution, but you'll let me know if it's if the sound stays on here. All right, so use the file. Can you hear that? You can't hear even from the browser? Wow. I don't know. I don't know what to do about it. That is really odd. And I'm not sure how that happened, but I don't know. I might have to actually uninstall and reinstall OBS and do all this over again. Because I mean, I have so many sound sources on here that it's like insane. Like I just can't even, there's so many of them. Like I can't even delete them either, which is terrible. I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. That's maybe something I try to figure. I don't know how to even figure that out off stream. I'm gonna have to do a separate stream where you guys can help me figure out my audio. But man, I really think I have to delete everything. I was really hoping I didn't have to do that because it's got a lot of clutter. I mean, it's every once in a while you got to do a dump, but man, I got to get rid of a lot of stuff then. I don't know. I don't think it's a weird glitch today because we were having sound issues with Zoom before, and I managed to figure out how to make Zoom work. But I don't know. I think it's actually an OBS problem structurally that I have to like go through and delete everything. And man, that's gonna suck. So yeah, we'll figure it out. But anyway, I'm not satisfied with that. But I hope that you guys at least have something to think about and talk about today in terms of satisfaction. And you know, as usual, I just hope that it was something good. It was something, you know, useful, and that you come away with something valuable. Tomorrow we have a guest. I will be putting that information up on social media, so you have to follow me on either Twitter at the Life Coach HLC or on Instagram at the Life Coach Insta. You can go on youtube.com and you can subscribe, and that's free on YouTube, and it's youtube.com/thelifecoach. And on Twitch, you can not really see any announcements, so go to my Facebook. It's Holistic Life Consultants on Facebook, and as always, feel free to become a member, holisticlifeconsultants.com. Always appreciate it. You get a lot more out of it. We go into more specific things every week, and there's more Q&A, and it's a great community. So, yeah, I know. The music was weird. I don't know why that's not working. But anyway, thanks, guys, for being here today. This was a little bit of a longer one. A lot of stuff to talk about. And feel free, like I said, message me, DM me, let me know all the nonsense that you want to say to me about the stream and what we can do differently and what you liked, and I will tweak accordingly. So if there's nothing else, I'm going to play the music that you can apparently hear. I'm going to put it down on the social media stuff so you can go find me there, and you can hopefully follow me everywhere that there is me. You guys have a great Wednesday night. I'll see you tomorrow, Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.